Hello everyone, my name is Łukasz, and currently I am a smart contract offensive security engineer. So my job is to test the security of blockchains, smart contracts. If you do not know right now what are blockchains or smart contracts, so this presentation hopefully will make you understand that. This will be a very foundational level, basically. So I'll try to cover all the basics of the blockchains and smart contracts, and also explain what can go wrong on each part of the blockchain's universe, which is also called Web3. So I may be using that name too. In the beginning, there could be a question, why blockchains? Basically, blockchains are interesting because there are many impactful hacks on the blockchains. You can see even on the chart that these are some aggregated amount of money that was stolen in blockchain hacks. And what are the blockchains? So basically it's a distributed network, but what that exactly means? So blockchains consist of nodes, which are simple services, like you just run a binary and it starts some HTTP services, and there are like thousands of those nodes which form a blockchain. So that's why the network is called distributed, because there are thousands of nodes throughout the world. And those nodes communicate with each other with transactions. So what are transactions? Basically, the blockchain is a distributed database. So each of the nodes keeps track of a state, what happens in the blockchain, in the form of transactions. A transaction is simply a log of a change that happens. For example, I transferred some funds to somebody, and there's a transaction, and all the nodes in the network will synchronize and keep this state from now on. What can go wrong here? So of course there's something like consensus mechanism, which I won't cover here today because we don't have enough time to do this. But simply the nodes have logic to distinguish malicious transactions from correct ones. Like, for example, I cannot state that I have more money than I really have, because the nodes will reject such transactions unless I would control 51% or more of the network. So this is called a 51% attack, and it's a way to take over a blockchain and do anything that a person can do. So that's one of the first things that could go wrong on a blockchain layer 1, because the blockchain layer, so the layer when the nodes exist, is called layer 1. Another thing that can go wrong, of course, since the nodes are just HTTP services, there can be attacked from the well-known attack vectors, for example, those kind of malicious HTTP requests, and so on and so on. Since those nodes are usually standard software, then it's really unlikely that there will be many vulnerabilities, but still that's possible to try to attack these kinds, these nodes. Going further, because those nodes are not really interesting, I think. So, for example, one of the well-known blockchain can be a Bitcoin or Ethereum, which probably are well-known. Of course, the blockchains can be run locally on a computer, but it's just for debugging purposes. Mainly blockchains are being run publicly in order to do something. For example, mimic financial instruments. So this smart contracts and DeFi basically mimics financial instruments. So for example, if you have a bank account and you can, for example, take a mortgage, you can have a savings account, something like this, you can do the same stuff in blockchain And in order to do this, you would need a smart contract or a DeFi, which stands for decentralized finance. And a DeFi application is simply just a set of smart contracts that mimic some financial instrument. Why it is done on a blockchain and not on a web application? Because we still have web application. So on the blockchain, we can have the smart contracts, which will be shortly explained, and they really can isolate well the code layer. So by just looking at the smart contract, we can know what this application, this DeFi application, will do. Yeah, there is also a third use case, which is NFT, but I don't think if they are really usable in the form of funny, expensive pictures, but they can be really useful, for example, for copyright protection or issuing some kind of unique identifiers. And how is the relation of a cryptocurrency to the blockchain? Because we're getting closer to the smart contract, the financial stuff. So here is the inevitable part, which is the cryptocurrency. So on a blockchain, usually the currency of a blockchain flows like a water in the nature. For example, like miners. So these are node operators who are participating in the consensus protocol. They are mining the blocks, so they are responsible for validation of the transactions. So I cannot submit any malicious one. They are getting rewarded for mining the transactions, while the users who want to do something on the blockchains are paying the currency in order to execute the actions. So that's how the cryptocurrency circulates on a blockchain, and how the currency goes to the people. So basically, anyone can go to a centralized exchange and then use further the DeFi application to reach any token that they think will be useful or will not be useful, because there are also some highly speculative assets which make people lose some money. So that can be dangerous. And going further, why is it important? So when I have a cryptocurrency, I need to store it in a wallet. Of course, it is a special software that is needed in order to hold the cryptocurrency on a computer. So what's that under the hood? The transactions, so the operations that, for example, allow to send cryptocurrency elsewhere, is simply a call of a function that is signed with a private public key cryptography. In very simple words. So any wallet is just another layer above the private and public key cryptography. So when you send money using a wallet, it has your private key in the memory, signs the transactions, and then allow you to operate somehow with your funds. But the wallet, which can be a browser extension or a thick client, opens some nice attack possibilities. For example, since it stores the private key, which is the only thing that controls your funds, it can store it in an insecure way. Moreover, there can be some memory leaks, so other processes can be able to access the private key, for example, if it's stored in a memory for long. Or there can be an XSS, and how XSS can influence the browser wallets. That's pretty interesting. Back in the time, there was a hack on Badger.io, which stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. That's kind of standard crypto organization, let's say, if somebody is unfamiliar with that. What the attacker did, they had an opportunity to control scripts which were loaded by the main page of the organization. And they use ability to insert scripts. So simply it was like an XSS they use it to invoke the browser wallet extension and make the user, they simply just ask the user to ask for allowance. What's an allowance? Well, if someone is unfamiliar with the matter, then I guess, like, if I didn't know what's allowance, I would simply click OK. And allowance is simply allowing another smart contract to allow your funds to do anything with them. So when this wallet extension was invoked, and someone accepted the transactions, then they lose their funds. What's further? So now we are getting closer to smart contracts. Okay, we have some time. That's fine. Okay, that's something like tokens and native coins. What I showed you before was the native coin. For example, Ethereum in the Ethereum blockchain. But there can be another layer, which are the tokens. So tokens are really smart contracts, and tokens are also cryptocurrencies. That can be a bit confusing because like from a financial point of view, both Ethereum and other tokens can be bought and stored in the wallet. But in fact, Ethereum is the, let's say, higher layer cryptocurrency than other tokens, because there can be tokens which are built on other blockchains. So how this kind of token look like? Here is the standard ERC20 token. We will see some vulnerability demo on that later. And that's a standard interface that defines which functions the token, which is built of Ethereum, will export. So these are supported operations, basically. And of course, if you are a bit confused with the code, this is Solidity language, so the language supported by the Ethereum virtual machine. So simply, there are some operations, and this is also what I told about smart contract, that you can basically just see the whole code that will be running. So you see here like total supply, balance of transfer, allowance, so permission for someone to move the funds somewhere, transfer from, and some logging features. Basically, smart contracts can be thought of as an equivalent of HTTP API. It can be simply hosted on the blockchain, and then users can interact with that. When users interact with that, they are using their private key to sign transactions. So that's how the authorization works, and making sure that no one is impersonating us, etc. Also, tokens are smart contracts, which means they can have some other features, not only those defined in the interface we saw before. And there are some standard tokens. The standards, on the other hand, are really helpful, because when looking at the standard, we can know that some smart contracts follow a specific pattern, and that it will have some specific features. For example, ERC20 is a standard token like currency, so it supports all operations typical for a currency, like moving funds, and what we saw before. And NFT is ERC 721, so it's just a non-fungible token. It's really similar, but with the difference, it like has to be unique. But we won't focus on NFTs today. Going further, this was a standard like contract used for being a currency. What else can be a smart contract? So here's the Uniswap, a crypto token, or a token of a DeFi application Uniswap, which is an automatic market maker or decentralized exchange. It allows for exchanging your funds for another. We won't be so covering the Uniswap, but if you, for example, take a block explorer For anyone who's unfamiliar, a block explorer is a tool that allows you just to browse the blockchain and identify the things that are there, like browse any transaction, browse any token. And as you can see, the code is publicly available. So whenever someone has any doubts over a smart contract or a token or anything else, then they can just go to a block explorer, write the code, which is publicly available. And yeah, the only obstacle here is that you basically need to read Solidity, but still better than nothing, I think. And what is this decentralized finance I mentioned before? So yeah, going further with that, it's mimicking traditional financial instruments. So if you have your bank, you can do the same as you're doing with your bank in the decentralized finance space. Moreover, assuming that all the instruments are smart contracts, you can, for example, mix them together and build something like a Lego of them. Of course, in an ideal world, because sometimes, well, some of the applications can be subject to hacks, some may stop working, because we are really early in the blockchain space. But in the ideal world, you can, for example, take a loan in one application, get a token as a proof of that loan, use it somewhere else to use it for a, for example, savings account, etc., etc. But this also has some disadvantages. For example, it's really, I think it's much easier to conduct some kind of financial attacks on those applications. For example, yeah, by draining the liquidity pools. Like if you have an Uniswap application, which I told about before, it basically works like an exchange. Like we open a pool, which is just a box when we put two currencies, and you can just put one of the currency to the box and pull out the another. But if there is an, let's say, intense imbalance, like there is 1,000 pieces of currency A and just one piece of currency B, then of course the price within the pool will fluctuate in an unknown direction, which can make you, for example, to have a possibility to make a really favorable trade on that. So this is just example of financial attacks. Okay, now we are getting to the main part. So smart contracts. I felt like before I start talking about smart contracts, I need to explain what's really under the hood. But because, for example, when I was starting my journey with the blockchain, I heard the word smart contracts, but I really couldn't locate it somehow. Like, for example, it was really abstract to me, and now I hope there is really better foundation for understanding what will come now. So there are mainly two bugs in the smart contracts and DeFi application. The logic bugs, which means that the logic is implemented incorrectly. We will see it in a moment in a demo. And there are also protocol-specific vulnerabilities, which means they are related to the underlying technology. Like, for example, there are some fallback functions that performs recursive loops, which is reentrancy. There can be storage conflicts, like, for example, two variables are named in the same way, and one will overwrite one another, and so on and so on. And also, what needs to be highlighted, we are focusing on Ethereum and Solidity, its language. But there are also many other chains, and there are other protocol-specific vulns in all the other chains. Okay, we have still some time. So there will be a demo time. Okay, I think we have kind of video issue. You need to believe me that my screen is working correctly, but this is not working.
Łukasz, masz dalej preskę włączoną?
Już wyłączyłem. O nie.
O.
Okay. 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 So this is a sample smart contract. It's a publicly available vulnerable code that can be confusing. So I will explain to you what's going here. So here are two smart contracts. One is the token. Very standard implementation. It just implements the standard ERC20 standard utilities. It just has some custom name and allows a person to mint, which means just print the money. And the tool is Remix IDE. So it's like a really nice graphic user interface too to compile and test some Solidity smart contracts. So what's wrong with that contract? Apart from the token, we have also vesting, which is some financial instrument. It allows to, for example, let's find some functions. It has various utilities. We won't be using all of them. For example, it allows deposit some tokens. And since we will depositing those tokens, we can, for example, withdraw them later with some interest. So just like a savings account. There are some things that can go wrong. I don't know if you can already spot the bug. In case you cannot, so I can shortly walk you through the code. One thing with the Solidity testing, it's, I think, at least in the beginning, it's much less exciting because there are like no popping shells, no RCEs, and so on. We'll just be observing the balance here. So what's wrong here? If we look at the code, there is one thing that is not okay here, and that's we are not performing any transfer. So that's a kind of example logic bug in a Solidity. It simply increases the balance of the recipient, but it doesn't transfer any funds. So it's like we just went to a bank. If we went to a bank and said, okay, I would like to deposit like 1,000 zloty, and the bank would say, okay, so your balance is now 1,000. So that's something like this. How that works? We need to invoke this function. So I have it deployed here. It's simple vesting. Here's my account address. I need to remember that. Because on Ethereum, we operate on addresses. Basically on any blockchain, we operate just with addresses. Your address is your identity, and it's directly derived from the public key. So here's the function deposit tokens. It's this one. So I will simply, okay, I can make it even better. I will first send some tokens to myself. For example, here are 500 tokens, and I can confirm that I have 500 by taking a function balance of the token with my address as an argument. Going back to the simple vesting, I want to deposit 1,000. Oh, okay, that's okay. I need to set a timestamp. And I think that's another bug that it allows you to set the timestamp. Like, I think it can be related to web vulnerabilities. Like, for example, if you are allowed to set something that could be easily obtained automatically, because why the application is even asking you for a timestamp. So now I can try to do this. Okay, that's cool. And I will first check the balance here. It's still 500. And let me copy my address again. And here's the balances, and it's say 5,000. But I didn't even have this many coins. So it's obviously it's example of a critical bug in Solidity. And one last thing, going back, how I was even able to get those coins. So here's another bug. I will switch to another account, for example, this one, a random one. Again, going to my token and mint. Okay, what's wrong here? Here's another critical bug. That's really bad one. Simply, the mint function, so you can think of it as a print function, lacks any access control. Like, anyone can just go to this token, press print, just type in the amount and print unlimited amount of money in this token. So that's another bad thing. Okay, basically, if there are any questions, I think that will be a good time for this, because yeah, that's everything I had for today.